everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Peach State Power Hour presented by UGAsports.com and M. Jones Heating and Cooling. We'll get to them later, though. Wow. We've got a special guest tonight, Bill Shanks, the man, the myth, the legend, the owner of several radio stations, I feel like. He's just a conglomerate in South Georgia. And also, you can't see his name there, but it says Gunnar Stockton's agent. So we appreciate Bill Shanks for jumping on with us. Before we get going too far into it, I'll let Eddie introduce him. But also, real quick, guys, a little housekeeping. If you're here for the first time, appreciate you jumping in with us, guys. This is the Peach State Power Hour. We talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, the Atlanta Falcons, the Georgia Bulldogs basketball, everything Georgia sports related. Atlanta Braves are a big topic since we've got our man Bill here tonight. So we'll be doing a lot of that. And if it's your 50th time watching, we appreciate you. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments section. If you have any questions specific to Bill, or I mean, you can have some questions for Eddie, I guess, but I wouldn't.
I have a lot of questions for myself. But
how big is your house, Eddie? How big? And yeah, I mean,
we appreciate you guys joining us this evening, and we will get going. Before we get going, Eddie, why don't you introduce your best friend there?
Yeah, so thank you, Bill Shanks, for joining us. Bill Shanks is not only a great writer, but he's a great broadcaster, and he broadcasts daily from 3 to 7 or 3 to 6, depending on the game. 3 to 6, and the best way to listen, I know people are all across the state, is thesuperstations.com. On my phone, I do it every day. But Bill, there might be some radio signals you want to call out. But he also has Jeff Dancer coming on there 12 to 1. Some other great hosts all throughout the day. And if it's local sports that you like and you don't give two craps about LeBron and Caitlin Clark, listen to his radio station because it's all local sports. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Eddie. It's a pleasure to be on. I haven't been on since the show was renamed, since I obviously screwed the last show that y'all had named.
It was bad. Yeah, we had to rebrand, Bill, and we had to make sure we had a good common base, a solid core here before we let you back on. But I guess the first topic tonight is, did you read the show sheet, Bill? Because normally I don't, but it's okay because you're professional like I am. It's all right. So first topic tonight is the Georgia Bulldogs football, kind of the offseason. Then I want to go to UGA basketball as well, Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta Braves, and even touch on the Hawks if we have some time left over. But the big news, obviously, this week was Carson Beck deciding to take his name out of the portal, or out of the draft, excuse me, into the portal. And then within 24 hours, deciding he was going to Miami. Before we go to you, Bill, I haven't let Andy talk yet, and I feel bad about that because I normally ask him how his weekend is. So, Andy, what are your thoughts on Beck dropping out?
I mean, when you see the numbers thrown around, $4 million to go play at Miami, and if he's going to be a 5th round, 6th round pick in the NFL draft, can't blame him. And apparently, I don't know, there's rumors that he maybe didn't have a spot in Athens. I don't know, maybe Bill, maybe you know a little something about that. But yeah, I mean, I had a good weekend. I'm okay, and I want to hear Bill's thoughts on Mr. Beck taking his talents to South Beach.
Well, for me, the train left the station. I think it was just no longer
when
for him to.
When did he leave the station, Bill?
Probably when he went to Florida on a Sunday after a game to visit his girlfriend instead of watching film in the middle of the year and piss everybody off.
No,
there's that. And when your legacy at the University of Georgia is going to be, Stetson's legacy is probably, I don't know, championships, and Carson's is Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what, if it may not be fair, but it's factual. It is what it is. And I think, I just think whether it's the $4 million that he may have made last year at Georgia, which had to turn some people and make them feel a little weird in that clubhouse. I mean, we all know money's becoming the object in college football. There's no question, but there still had to be a little bit of, well, hold on, what has he done? If Stetson had gotten $10 million, everybody would have been like, hey, God bless him. Heck, I'll contribute. But Carson hadn't done anything. And so I'd love to know how much he got in 2023. And he got 2024. And I don't think this is a bad kid. I don't think this is a bad kid at all as far as, well, he was a problem or he caused issues. I think he was a quiet kid. I think circumstances made it to where it was just kind of uncomfortable for him to continue. And I never thought anything about him being the 2025 quarterback. I don't think Kirby Smart did either for some of the circumstances that we talked about. The train just had left the station.
Bill, was it weird to you or a telling to you when Kirby Smart said the players play really hard for Gunner? And he just sort of almost like he threw Carson, not throwing him under the bus, but he made a point to say they're playing really hard for Gunner Stockton.
Yeah, I think it was, Andy, a little bit of a sign. And look, Anthony Dasher from UGAsports.com was on the show on Friday and said, look, there were some things that were going on even in December where he was not communicating with the University of Georgia. He was, and then all of a sudden he showed up for the bowl game, and I don't like that. And I guarantee you Kirby Smart doesn't like it either. And so I didn't want him back. I wouldn't have paid him half of that to come back. There's some things, it's like sometimes you can just tell, Max Fried's going to sign with someone else. Okay. Freddie Freeman's going to be a Dodger. Okay. It's time for Carson Beck to leave. Okay. And I think it was almost palatable to a certain extent that you could tell that this relationship was going to end after the 2024 season.
Hey, I want to throw in here, Paul, just real quick. I know Beck sat and waited his turn a long time, came in after 3 years or 2 years? I don't remember. But anyway, three, and started the last 2. So he waited his turn, and we all gave him credit for that. What kid nowadays does that kind of thing? Great stuff. But I want to make a comparison here. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. But I watched a guy named JT Daniels, who was supposed to be the starter, lose his starting position. And what did that kid do? Never once said a word to anybody, the media, the team, otherwise. And every time Stetson went to the bench, who was right there with him? JT Daniels. Always. And he transferred, and we said, God bless, kid. But he didn't. He did it the right way. But that's what I saw in JT Daniels. To me, seemed like more of a leader as an outside guy than Carson Beck ever was. I was very disappointed with how this ended. And Bill's right. We can take everything he did in the past, won the SEC championship. That's about all he won, but won a lot of games for us. But we're going to remember what happened most recently. And that's what happened most recently. He shunned Georgia and went to Miami. And that's what we're all going to remember. And he didn't act as a leader leading into that playoff game to me.
Well, I think this also, guys, this is the first quarterback Georgia's had to give a hefty chunk of change to play quarterback for them in this NIL era. And so now you look at it and you see it at other programs, but you haven't had not the luxury, the pain of seeing it at Georgia, where guys want to transfer for more money. But now that is the case. And, I don't blame Carson for going to Miami. Like, he was going to be, I don't know, 5th or 6th round, Andy, but 3rd or 4th easily, right? Like,
I don't know.
It's also one of those things where if he has a good enough agent, his agent should be like, hey, look, how did this kid who's doing the same thing go from top 5 pick to a 4th round pick? There's some things there, but either way, he's got a girlfriend down there. He's living the college dream. He's getting to go play. Will Levis right now is making $950,000 as a starting quarterback for the Titans.
Yeah.
This kid's going to triple that, maybe quadruple that. Like, go do your thing, man. Stay in college for another year. You don't have to. But at the same time, I thought it was weird how he entered into the draft and then didn't sign with an agent. It was just a very strange way to do it. And I guess it's easier to not get the blowback that way as opposed to just entering into the portal instantly, Bill. But I think it's like Eddie said, it's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of folks' mouth. What you're going to remember Carson Beck from is not him being able to rally the troops against Texas or win the SEC championship game. You're going to remember him for his Lamborghini and his girlfriend, and then him moving to Miami. That's going to be his legacy in Georgia.
And, the sad part about this is, look, there are some personalities in sports who are not leadership material. And it sounds like, from what I've heard about Carson Beck, there's, again, nothing bad about the kid, but quiet, different personality than Stetson, not very outgoing, not very loud. And I think the comment that you mentioned, Andy, about what Kirby said of Gunner was as reflective about that, of how they like Gunner, how his personality was different from Carson's more than, well, Carson sucks and Gunner's better. Right. I don't know if Carson Beck was capable of being the leader that I think this team craved. And here's the bad part. Because you're getting paid now, if you're making $3 or $4 million as the quarterback, guess what? You're the leader.
You're the leader. Yeah, you got to be the leader.
Yeah. You're the leader, whether you like it or not. And you know what? That's why it's going to be so interesting to see moving forward of how these programs are so selective on their recruiting of getting the type of personalities that can handle. All right, if you're making $3 million, people are going to have expectations of you no matter what. It ain't got nothing to do with no stars anymore. It's got to do with how much money you're getting. You know, so I don't think Carson, and God bless him, moving forward, and maybe he'll be that NFL player one day if his arm gets back, which is another reason why I didn't want him next year.
Yeah, you never know.
Why do I want Spencer Strider coming to being my quarterback in 2020?
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, I think this kind of ties back into what we're trying to look at as far as this 2024 team, that it just didn't seem like there was much leader. I don't think Carson's got that kind of leadership ability like a Stetson Bennett or even like a JT Daniels for that matter to do what he did when he got benched. That's showing leadership, right?
Yeah.
So, Gunner does. Gunner drives a pickup truck. And look, I don't want my quarterback to be known about what kind of vehicle he drives.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'll throw this back to you, Paul. One more thing on this before we move forward. So we said here that Kirby said in his press conference that Gunner plays, or the team plays hard for Gunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's the coach. He knows, he's probably known this all along. Why in the world, when Carson Beck was really, really struggling and almost costing his team games, didn't he put Gunner in there and try to change things up? That once, he argued vehemently against that when he was asked about it. It never happened. Why?
What if it's a skill gap?
Yeah.
There?
I mean, maybe it is. But is it, though? Paul, when you look at it, do you think it? And see, Bill,
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Say what you're doing, Bill.
Yeah. So it could be a mental thing, could be a skill gap thing. I mean, you're going through a gauntlet of a schedule and you go to bench this kid. Like I think we talked about this in the middle of the season. I was like, if you bench Carson, you can't go back to him. He's too like
too fragile or something. Yeah.
Fragile, something, I don't, the word fragile.
That's not the right word,
but yeah, it's one of those, you bench him, you can't go back to him. So then Gunner's your guy, right?
Well, you saw with Stetson, he would play a game and wouldn't play again for 3-4 weeks and then come back in, bail out again.
Why was Sark able to take out Quinn Ewers for the end of the first half against Georgia and then turn right around and put him back in the third quarter and let him replace Arch? Sark knew that Ewers was not going to be lost or out.
Mentally tough. Maybe that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah. Or not be fragile.
Mm-hmm.
That if he needed to do that for the benefit of his football team, which Sark thought at that time because Georgia was whipping his ass, that could happen. I think there's no question it was a warranted question of Kirby. I think Kirby knew that he would lose Carson forever.
Yeah.
And that even, after Florida, it was awful. That Florida game, they were lucky as hell to win that game. I'm sitting there in the press box. They've heard me tell this story. And all those Gator guys were laughing their butt off because of how bad the Dogs were playing, because it's like, Florida sucks. What's wrong with y'all? And Carson was throwing, interceptions like he's Faton Bauna out there. Yeah. He could have easily been taken out a little bit right there, and Gunner or Puglisi or Rashada could have come in for just a little while, just like they did in Austin with those guys. I don't think Kirby thought he could do that. I don't think he thought that he could get Carson back, and he had the rest of the season to go to, that he had to deal with that. So I think he was just a different personality, not necessarily a wrong personality, but a different personality that personally I don't want to see my quarterback have.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Kind of wrap up the Carson Beck chatter. All the best to him in Miami.
Yeah.
I'm sure Georgia players would love to see him in a playoff game.
That's rumors that there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there that's there may been not too fond of him. So we'll see.
Can I say something about the girlfriend, Paul? She's good looking. She's got a nice body. Good for her. There's 1,000 girls at the University of Georgia in Athens that look just like her. Give me a break.
Or better.
We're not talking about Georgia Tech here. We're talking about UGA, where the girls are hot and they got a fine piece of ass, and that's great. So it's not like that girl in Miami is the only thing that he could get. If he had to go to Miami to find one and couldn't get one right there in his own backyard, that's his problem. But you know what? Good for him if he thinks that's what's important. But the money's what's important. If she would try and do it, the money, fine. But hey, look, that kid may never play in the NFL. He's going to make more than most players in the NFL. Because if Roddy's right, he made $4 million last year and he's making $3 or $4 this year. think a lot of NFL players don't make $7 million.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, go get your money, kid, and life will move on for Georgia. Speaking of moving on for Georgia, we'll get to the transfers here in just a second that Georgia did pick up, but we're on the quarterback conversation. So, are you guys good with riding with Gunner and Puglisi, or you want to get a transfer? I have another thing on this show sheet says go after Arch with 3 question marks, yours with 1 question mark, other with 1 question mark. So I feel like the Arch one with 3 question marks was the one Andy really wanted to hit home there.
Well, that would be Mr. Eddie from Acworth.
Eddie did.
Yes,
Okay.
because he knows that Bill's the biggest fan of the Manning family, if you did not know this.
Oh, my God.
But again, you got to take that out. Okay. I know you have this hatred for the Mannings. That's fine. But okay. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. But
why would we want him?
Well, that's the good question. So do you
he can't even break into a lineup in 2 years in Austin? And I'm going to hand him the crown in Athens? Why? Because of his last name. If his name was Arch Mattingly, I would just think he's just another subpar human being.
Is that because of the last name, though?
Well,
yeah.
I'm just saying,
in that aspect, yeah.
I'm just saying.
You've gone from really good to really bad with that last name change.
Well, there you go. So why am I going to give him something because his last name's Manning?
No,
he could be Danny Manning's son, and I would be more impressed than those other people. But no, I like Gunner. I think we've seen enough of Gunner and heard enough about Puglisi to be fine with those two. If we need to bring another shot in just to be a body after spring practice, that's fine. But no, I'm not interested in bringing in another. And that's who are you going to get? Who's going to be out there? I think Gunner is fine. He didn't show me. Eddie and I talked this week a little bit about the pocket presence, and I just think it's going to get better with time and experience.
Yeah.
And look, once you tell Gunner, and look, maybe it's Puglisi. I don't care who it is, as long as they're good, right? I don't give a damn. But if Gunner is the guy, and you say, Gunner, you're the guy, I think we've seen enough to make us think that he can handle that responsibility. He wants that responsibility and runs from there. But because here's the thing, what we were just talking about with Carson, as far as the money and different things like that, what are we going to feel from them in the clubhouse if they bring in some schmuck from Austin and give him $4 million?
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid point, right? You go and get this quarterback, and a lot of teams have done it, right? In the past few years, just Georgia's been fortunate enough to not have to go do it, but go bring in this kid, doesn't know any of the 85, 125, whatever the number is that is out there. And Bill's laughing. I don't know what he's laughing. I don't know. He caught me. He got me. But you go out there and you're paying $2 million, $3 million to a guy that's never stepped foot on your campus with any of the guys, and he shows up and says, "Hey guys, I'm the starting quarterback. Let's get to work."
Y'all say all this. Bill says that, but Georgia did everything they could to get this kid on campus and to sign with Georgia. Let's not forget that. He was their number one target. He came to Georgia, act like he wanted to be there. They were all over this kid from the get-go. Well, you can do that, Bill, but they wanted him. It's not.
They did. Because he was a highly recruited quarterback out of high school,
and he was really, really good
in high school. But he couldn't. Well,
Gunner was good in high school. I mean,
he couldn't quit. He couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, but I'll get to that. He should have been playing more in that game the other night, in my opinion. I thought that was a huge mistake on Saul.
Okay, well, Eddie, I'm gonna because I'm okay with either. But let me ask you this: then you talk about Arch not being able to beat out Quinn Ewers. Gunner did not beat out Carson Beck. That's we saw. So
was a true freshman though, wasn't he?
Well, Gunner, this is his
no, not last year.
No, Gunner's been here. Gunner's just 1 year behind Carson.
Okay. Yeah, this is third year. But regardless though, but the point is, so like Eddie, I think me and Bill agree that Gunner has shown enough. I think he has, and I know there's people that don't necessarily think Gunner is okay. So y'all don't think he's shown enough. Okay, so what hasn't he shown that Arch has, I guess is the question.
Let's just take Arch out of it because that's just a pipe dream that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's silly talk.
Well, okay, yeah.
I mean, if that happens, then quit talking about quarterback. Whatever. You got to focus on O-line at that point.
Right.
But I think Gunner's good. I don't know if Gunner is national championship good, and there's a select few quarterbacks that are. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what we have in Puglisi, right? We don't know what he's sitting on the bench. There's reports that he's really good, But there was reports when Carson Beck was around before he was starting that, man, he's really taken the jump. He's jumped up, and there's always been reports of Gunnar, man, if he could get in the game, he's just a different type of cat. He can run, So at the end of the day, we've seen 6 quarters now of Gunnar Stockton, and he was getting beat up in that playoff game because his offensive line was letting folks go by.
They weren't good.
So either way, you're going in, and this is unfamiliar territory for Georgia because you've had a starter come in 2 years for Beck, and then you had 2 years for Stetson. Now you've got another quarterback here. You've got other problems on this team too, though, guys. Sure. And that's where Georgia kind of went out and they landed the Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, Zion Branch, Adrian Maddox, those type of guys. Bill, I guess to get not away from the quarterback position, but there's other things on this team that need to be addressed. Are there other positions that you think Georgia needs to still continue to try to go after? And the problem is the only teams that really have guys left are going to be we had 2 of them drop out, right? So there will be some, I'm sure, portal changes on Monday from Penn State and also Texas, right? Yeah. So you can see what you've got there. And then you've got also the other 2 teams once they finish, and then any coaching changes that may come from that. If, let's say, Sark or James Marcus Freeman go to the NFL, then it's just this ladder down effect that could keep this portal open pretty much all the way until spring. I mean, if you look at it, it could do that, then have a trickling effect. Where does Georgia need to get better at right now for next season besides quarterback, which, it's going to work itself out, I think.
I think offensive line is front and center for me. I mean, I'm scared to death about offensive line. And look, it's funny because the offensive line obviously was a problem, right? The offensive line was a problem for Gunnar in New Orleans. The offensive line was a problem at times for Carson this year. Mm-hmm. But now those offensive linemen are gone. So the uncertainty of who's replacing those guys with players who have not gotten a lot of snaps, some have, but not all, is much more of a worry to me than quarterback. Now, I understand that the quarterback is a question mark because there's not been anything proven to us. Just like 2 years ago, there hadn't been anything really proven to us from Carson. But Paul, at least we got those 6 quarters to see a little bit of Gunnar compared to not seeing anything, which would make us even more concerned going into 2025 and just rely on spring practice. And again, look, it might be Puglisi, but I think we've heard enough. See, it's the scuttlebutt, and you know this, Paul. We hear scuttlebutt. It's not just from dog vent talk, but scuttlebutt that just kind of gets out there. And, we heard the Puglisi stuff at the end of the year, which was good. I had a text from someone on November the 17th who had been to practice who said, man, Gunner's looking really good. And it was an unsolicited ask about Gunner. But that's good scuttlebutt, that people hear a little bit about. We would hear that about Carson at times when Stetson was there. Hell, I had somebody in the second quarter when they were in Indianapolis. Put Carson in. Let's put Carson in. Stetson's struggling. So I think I have enough confidence, at least in the competition at quarterback with those two, that we can go in and see how they do. Plus, I think that what you said, Paul, is very important. I think the wide receiver room is going to be better this coming season with Noah Thomas and with Branch. I think the tight end room is going to be better this year with the beast from Camden County, Williams, and the other kid, Barber. So I think that's going to help him a lot. The running backs coming back, 4 top running backs at least, it's going to help a great deal. It's just that offensive line. If that offensive line hopefully better. And look, I'm going to say this. If Kirby Smart does not fire Stacey Searles, then I think the offensive line situation is better than I and others may think that it is. Because if Kirby was concerned about the offensive line as much as I am, I think he'd fire Stacey Searles. So I'm really going to watch that for the next couple of weeks as well.
And not to say it's not going to happen, right? Because I saw somebody, I think it was on Dogvin or Twitter or something, say that Kirby didn't fire James Coley until January 17th. So, I mean, it doesn't have to happen the day after the game, right? Right. And there's a lot that kind of shakes out once, especially now, because, Sark's name has been brought up numerous times in the NFL talk. Yeah. Marcus Freeman's name is now getting brought up. Yep. And what ends up happening when you have 2 high tier programs like that, let's say both of them were to leave, right? Then you have two really good coaching staffs that want to find new homes. Then you have like it turns into this what we have a coaching because we haven't really had one, guys. We haven't had a true coaching carousel
Not yet.
this offseason. There's been some group of five and some lower power four stuff, but nothing crazy. Now you lose one of those guys, and then it starts this, it starts up the tornado of things that can happen. And Kirby's smart enough to realize, and I'm sure he's plugged in enough to know, hey, we're here and Sark's probably going to the NFL. So if you want to wait it out and see what's going to happen here, you might have your choice of the litter if you wait. So there's always a strategic move behind it with that. With that being said, Bill, we'll go around the room real quick. Who's your favorite transfer so far that Georgia has brought in?
I love tall receivers and tall pitchers. So I can't wait to see if Noah Thomas can be like what they thought Colby Young was going to be before he got in trouble. And I think that dynamic to this team, along with the possibility of Williams being a big target for Gunner or Puglisi could be very important. So I think Noah Thomas, to be honest with you.
Who you got, Andy?
Yeah, well, I'm for my M. Jones UGA impact player, I'm going to go with Adrian Maddox because I think it's huge because, we just lost Starks to the NFL. So I think he can come in and start immediately. So, and plus we kicked Florida in the face a little bit after he had committed to them. So it makes it even that much sweeter. So,
oh yeah. Yeah.
What you got, Eddie?
I'm going to go with Branch Zechariah. And the reason I'm going to say that is because he's replacing that burner. He's a burner, much like Arian Smith. He catches the football. He doesn't drop it a lot. And the other dynamic he brings us
throw that in there
is the returns.
Yeah, the punt returns. Yeah.
Anthony Evans didn't do anything on the returns, and we thought he would. Branch can house one. And how important was that in the Notre Dame game? Wouldn't that be nice to have on our side for a change? We need that.
Yeah, I when I heard Noah Thomas went into the portal, I was like, oh.
Yeah. You were all over that.
Yeah. I mean, like Bill said, 6'6". He can run routes. And if you go watch his tape, he's not lining up just as a true X. He lines up in the slot sometimes. He can line up as he lines up all over the field. And I like that versatility because what you do with that now is you're able to move Dylan Bell back to a position that he can play better.
Yep.
And not have to rely on him to do as much. You're not having to, and it's no fault of Arian Smith that he had to be pushed into that role. We knew he had drop issues the years prior, but you lost Ra Thomas and you lost Colby Young. I mean, there was nobody else to throw the ball to, so.
And plus you'll have Dominic Lovick back with him as well. So that's going to be.
No, Dom's going to the draft.
Oh, that's right.
Dom announced. Yeah.
Okay.
This just like a couple of years ago when Stetson had Brock, and I know it's Brock and I'm not comparing Noah to Brock, but there was still a belief that, well, if, Stetson gets in trouble, he can just kind of throw it Brock's way and he can get it. Well, for a new quarterback, whether it's Gunner or Puglisi, to have, again, Williams or
Barber
or Thomas to be that type of height, that can be very beneficial for a new quarterback. So I think that'll help a great deal.
What do you think about our man Chris Garcia here saying, I'm waiting to see if we replace Damon Wilson?
Yeah.
That one out of all transfers Georgia's had, Bill, Eddie, Andy, because I don't want to keep just saying Bill. It's all of us here.
That's not what I was told in the negotiations, Danny.
Right. The show sheet says it's the Paul and Bill show with Eddie and Andy smiling and laughing. No,
that's fine.
Out of all of the transfers Georgia's had go out, this one to me, I was like, damn, this one hurts.
That stung, yeah.
This one, the rest of them, it's like Jaw Jarrett, man, I would have liked to see more out of you.
But you get it. Yeah, you get that.
Yeah, not only did it sting, it didn't make any sense because he played really well in that last game.
You're the guy next year, man.
Yeah.
You're the guy.
Brent Rollins brought up a point, Paul, when I had him on Wednesday, and because he was not very surprised about Damon because of how Georgia's using their edge rushers and that they're not getting that type of even the statistical thing that sometimes you need.
But here's the problem with that, Bill. And he said that on our show for the first time last Sunday. And that's what brought it up. Mm-hmm. And here's the problem with that, though. If you're Kirby Smart, you can go to him and say, you don't have to put up those stats. Trayvon Walker went number 1 and started one game for us.
That's right. Yeah.
Quay Walker was a rotational linebacker. Shannon Tyndall, all these, you can go down the line. You don't even have to start for us and you'll play. I get it that he wants to see more stats, I guess. But here's the thing. He tried Ohio State didn't want him. Price tag was too high. Now it looks like Mizzou is the only other school that you've gone from the Dogs to Mizzou.
Yeah, I mean, how much more are they going to give him than what he's getting paid here?
Here's the problem too. Now you're going to Mizzou, and yeah, sure. Let's say they have a different rush concept. Now you're just going to get double teamed. They don't have anybody.
I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. I mean, unless he's burned his bridge. I mean,
it's one of those things, Bill. It's like, oh, you want to come back now? Well, that NIL money is now in half. You know?
That's right.
We still got a bed for you, but guess what? We don't have the satin sheets anymore, baby. You know, it's 400 thread count.
Brand 100.
Yeah.
Leverage is important on both sides after you leave, isn't it?
Right.
Forgive me for not knowing. The portal's closed now, right? Can he come? I mean,
So he's in the portal.
He can sign. Yeah.
You can sign.
The portal open or close, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. As long as
he's jumping in.
He just hangs out there. I got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, which is also a very, very just sad thing in general. You go look at how many kids are in the portal right now that had Division I scholarships, and how many do not have Division I scholarships right now. And this NIL thing, it works both ways, right? It pays the players, and you get kids like Caleb Downs, for instance, transferred to Ohio State. Now he's in the national title game. One got $2 million to go play. There's also other instances where that kid transferred from Ohio State, and he didn't play football last year.
Yeah,
you know, and it's ruined the development of college football, and you don't see that as much anymore. And you hear it from NFL scouts too. They're like, the guys just aren't developed as much anymore because you're moving from school to school to school. I saw a kid. What's his name? Pig Howard, I think it is. It's a funny name, Pig something. He's on his 5th school in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's sad, really. And you see, and the problem is you see where he started. I think he started like a Missouri type level of school. And now he's gone and he's dropped so far. He's at Incarnate World. Yeah. Like that's where he's playing football now. And it's just, you're trying to bet on yourself and it doesn't work sometimes. And it's
crazy.
Marshmut says, didn't expect a discussion on thread count sheets when I tuned in. That's why you tune in, baby.
You never know what you'll get. Yeah.
Hey, you can use that one, Bill. I won't charge you for that. Satin sheets to the 300 thread count.
I like it.
I'll give that to you. Real quick, we got to get a sponsor in here, Bill. You know how that works.
That mean I get paid?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Double my salary. You can triple my salary. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. M Jones Heating and Cooling, mjoneshvac.com, guys. Your house is getting cold. It's getting cold outside.
It is cold.
It is cold.
Yeah, it is. It is cold. And they're saying it might be some more snow in a week from now, guys.
Yeah, I saw that. 23rd or something like that.
Yeah, I can't. My sister came over. She did her husband tonight, and said there's 8 days of snow and ice. And I was like, look, I just spent 3 days with these kids. I couldn't dare do 8. It's not going to happen. So, but if it were to happen with our HVAC unit, I'd give the guys at M Jones HVAC a call. You can also go on their website, mjoneshvac.com/contact, put in your first, last name, email address, phone number, and in the message, type in UGA Sports. They will make sure you get 5% off of your new installs and also 10% off of any repairs. M Jones HVAC. Contact Matthew and Michael right there, or just their phone number as well. With that being said, the M Jones UGA Impact of the Week. So we normally have impact players, Bill, and there were. I mean, you could do basketball, I guess, if we really wanted to be specific, but we wanted to kind of have it anything related to any dog in any sport. So it could be the NFL. Who is your M Jones UGA Impact Player of the Week?
Wow.
That's a wow. See, I know exactly what that wow is because I do that wow a lot, guys. That's the wow of I didn't read the show sheet and now I'm having to come up with something in my head. I do it every week.
Hey, can I just make a suggestion, Andy? Just send me the show sheet. You and I'll have the notes. We don't need to send it to anybody else.
That's
okay.
Good. I'll tell you who I'm going to pick. Santos Surreal, because that kid has changed this team. Man. And I know, like yesterday, he didn't have great numbers, but you know, when you watch this team now and you see that beast on this team that Georgia hasn't had much of over the years, that to me represents the difference in what Georgia basketball is right now. They're just partly different because they've got more talent, right? The talent level has increased on this team, but I mean, he I don't even know who to compare him to as far as, he reminds me of blank. Well, it's hard in the Georgia uniform over the last 2 decades of
Yeah.
this.
There is nobody in the last 2 decades,
Right.
And there was a time period in that game yesterday, and we'll get to the basketball here in just a second. There was a time, like a 3-4 minute stretch there, where Oklahoma just did not want to go in the paint. If they did, they're getting swatted, and it completely changed the trajectory of that game.
Charles Clinton, Marshmont says Charles Claxton, and
that's who I thought of. Yeah.
That's Nick's dad, of course, who played for Coach Durham 35 years ago. And look, Charles Claxton was a good college player, but he was a string bean. He was like Bernard Williams on the offensive line. Eddie knows.
Was he skinnier than his son was at Georgia?
No. Charles was literally a string bean. Nick has more meat on the bone than Charles. Charles was literally, he wasn't Manute Bowl, but I mean, he was
right.
He didn't have the presence that Santos Surreal does, or even that Nick had a few years ago. But I mean, even having to go back 35 years to think of someone tells you what we're dealing with. Someone new.
And what's crazy too, I don't know, Bill, if you saw this video, they were doing the hat giveaway, right? And Samto walked up without a shirt on. Dude's he's got like 4% body fat.
I know. It reminds me of me on Thursdays. It's unbelievable.
At 7 foot tall to look like that, it's like, dude, I don't know. Like you're a true freak of nature. Andy,
by the way, Al Lewis just had the comment of the year. Reminds me of Mark Sloniker. Oh my God!
yeah.
Awesome, Al. Awesome. I love that.
Who you got, Andy?
Yeah, no, I went with Adrian Maddox just because I thought that was huge. That he was committed to Florida, and then he kicked him in the face, and he was going to be a day one starter for Florida as well. So now they're having to circle the wagons, and he's probably going to be a day one starter for Georgia. So yeah, he's definitely my M. Jones Impact Player of the Week.
M. Jones Impact Player of the Week, Eddie from Acworth.
So again, I did these notes and I'm a little confused. I thought we were doing like Impact UGA and
Impact UGA, yes, whatever you want. Yes,
I didn't know it was necessarily a player. Paul, are you doing a player like from the NFL? Because I don't want to step on yours.
This is a long story.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You did the notes, Eddie. I will let you go, and I can pivot from that. I think I know where you're going.
I just basically said the NFL and the impact the dogs are making in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Arthur Blank,
over. Okay.
Yes, okay. I just said the NFL is loaded with Georgia players all weekend. Ladd McConkey had 197 yards and a touchdown. His team had 260 yards, dominating the football game. James Cook, 23 for 120 and a TD.
That dude.
You go down the list. Javon Bullard, Quay Walker, Kobe Dean.
Kobe Dean with that tackle today was great.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I mean, it's just they're everywhere. And you know where they're not? In Flowery Branch. You jerk, Arthur Blank. So thank you to the fun to watch the Georgia Bulldogs all over the place.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say Ladd, but you took it, so that's fine.
That's why I asked.
No, it's okay. But look, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. The UGA basketball crowd.
That's a good one.
Student section and everybody, all the fans showing up. It seemed, and I know we had some folks there. Garrett Key was in the building.
Yeah.
Garrett Key got a picture with Sweater Man. Grown man going to get a picture with another grown man. I don't know, but
both sweating profusely. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, both of them sweating hard. I don't know, Bill. Yeah, look.
What is this? Brokeback Mountain? What is this?
It was something. It was something. It was a picture. But no, shout out to the fans that showed up at those two games. And it made me for a split second be like, wow, that Georgia might just be a basketball school too. Wow. And we haven't seen that in a long time. We're going to see Georgia ranked for the first time this upcoming rankings. Like, when was the last time we saw that? You know, it's just shout out to the fans making it electric. Also making it difficult for me to find tickets for me and my wife because they're like triple the price now.
Were they really? Were they?
Yeah. Yeah. It used to be you could be like, hey, I got $12. Can I get 3 tickets and 2 hot dogs? And they'd be like, actually, we were just going to charge you 10, sir. So yeah, it's gone up, and shout out to them. You know,
but you know what? Can I piggyback on that, Paul? In that I said on Friday on my show, and Eddie will, I think, attest this because he was there at the same time I was. One of my great memories of being in Athens as a student at UGA 35 years ago was going to college basketball games. Was going to see the Dogs, was going to see Hugh Durham.
Who was around when you were in school, Bill?
Oh, it was not Lateral Green. Who was the other point guard that went at the Pacers? Not Vern Fleming.
Vern Fleming was
Which
before that.
Charles Claxton was there because I did a
Charles was
story on
there.
him in the Red and Black. I know that. But Hugh Durham was awesome. I love Coach Durham. But we went to go to the basketball games, and my roommate and I, both sports fans, we loved going to every game. And we'd sit up in that upper deck, and we had a ball, and it's some of my best memories of going there for 2 years are going to those games. Now, think of how many years that students haven't been able to have that same experience that I had. So for that to happen again now at the University of Georgia, along with everything else that's going along, I'm happy for those students because I'm telling you, I don't know, Eddie, if you went to a lot of games, but I didn't miss one.
Yeah, I went to a lot. I named 3 games for you. You asked, Bill. Lateral Green.
Yeah.
Rod Cole, who was one of my all-time favorite Bulldogs, and Reggie Tench. You remember him? He's kind of a bench player.
Number 44. He was a JUCO transfer,
awesome.
Wasn't he?
Yeah. But Hugh Durham, to answer your question, Paul, got things going there in the late 90s. And my best memory at Georgia, because the football team was at that time, winning the SEC championship in our place against Shaquille O'Neal and the LSU Tigers. We all rushed the floor, and that's worth rushing the floor for. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Jim Herrick's dogs. That was my favorite time as a basketball.
But I mean, we all saw how that came crashing down, right?
Yeah, but it was great when they were good, man. That was some good
you're right.
Yeah. Old M. Charles, I think, feels like a lot of Georgia football fans feel. He said, never wanted to go to a basketball game, but if UGA keeps up the momentum, I will definitely come.
That's good.
Yeah. James Caraway says James Naismith had just invented the game when Eddie grew to love UGA.
Hey, that's not me, Eddie, so don't blame me for that, you old
who laughed the loudest? That answers everything you need to know. Yeah.
They had just switched from the milk crates to an actual chain on the
round ball in hole. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the dogs,
who asked James anyway? What the hell? Why'd you let that comment go through?
Speaking of the dogs, beat Kentucky 82-69 at home. Then you turn around and beat Oklahoma, which I think Oklahoma, if we're being honest, was a little highly ranked. But they also had I didn't know this, and maybe you did, Bill. I don't know if Andy and Eddie would. I went to go look at some mock drafts after the game because I wanted to see where Asa Newell was. They had a kid, Fears, a point guard at Oklahoma, that's top 5. Georgia held him to 2 points, 1 of 11 shooting.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that.
That's so,
but beat Oklahoma. So that's 2 ranked wins at home, more than 10 points, 14-2 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. Here's where it gets tough, though. You got to play Tennessee and Auburn back to back. Where, I guess my question to you guys, can they steal one of these?
Well, if the kid from Auburn's out, maybe.
Broom.
The other pro prospect who's a mid-first rounder, Paul. I don't think so. I mean, you know what? But even these games will show us how competitive they can be against this level of competition.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to piggyback off of that, Bill, and say, hey, if they do lose these 2 games, don't lose your hope in this team.
Right.
This is the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the nation. Like there's no reason they lose these 2. Oh, well, all the momentum's gone. No, calm down a little bit. Okay, they're playing 2 really good teams. Now, if you play them close, like James Caraway says, play both games close, I'll be happy. Look, both of those teams,
they're great.
Only won by 3 points on Saturday against unranked teams.
Yeah,
I mean they can be beat. They're not some crazy team that can't. I say Tennessee is probably tougher because you're playing in Knoxville on Wednesday. But they're not tough teams. And then Garrett Key makes a good point. White has a good record against Bruce Pearl and Marshmutt. Pearl has problems in the steg. He does.
That's true.
Scott Anderson says Broom is out. That's huge if he is.
Huge, yeah.
Well, I'll throw in here. Last week at this time, we said we got Kentucky and Oklahoma coming up. We need to steal one of these games.
Yeah,
what did they do? They got both of them. So, Bill, you were talking about Santos Surreal and how much of an impact he has on the basketball game. Well, what happened in the first half is Somto was very sloppy. He was I think he had 3 straight turnovers, it seemed like. And White pulled him out of the game. Justin Abson came in, didn't do a lot on the stat sheet, but was a major presence for us. And the players raved about how he came in and played for them. That's the difference with Georgia basketball this year. Years past, Surreal's out. We're screwed. I talked to a Tennessee fan today. And I'm actually going to be at Harrah's this week on business, and I might bet on this game, depending on. But I'm probably going to take Tennessee in all honesty, just because. But he said, this is what you need to think about. He said, Tennessee does not have good presence inside. He said their biggest player is like 6'5". They play perimeter basketball. If we start pounding in the middle like that and they can't stop us, Tennessee may be in trouble. And he admitted that. He said, we may have some trouble with you guys because of y'all's presence inside. That was good to hear.
Which is crazy, Andy, because the last, God, I can't remember the last 10 years, 12 years, you haven't had a Justin Abson, much less a Samto Surreal and an Asa Newell. And look, RJ Godfrey, somebody that we know very well, kind of craps on RJ Godfrey. And dude, he makes plays. He might not show up on the stat sheet, but he's gritty. He's like the heart of this team. I'm just going to say he's got a G over here in our comment section that's orange. Craps on him a little bit. I think he's pretty good. But don't you look at it and you at least think they got a shot at these games, whereas in the last 2 or 3 years you wouldn't have thought they had a shot. So that's a good thing. I mean, that's heavens no. If last year, if you look at this, how the SEC is stacked up this year, it's like, God almighty, Georgia's going to finish 14th.
Yeah,
and now it's totally different.
I disagree with you. I think the heart of the team is Silas Demery. That kid is all over the place.
But here's the thing. It's unlike Georgia. I think you can go to a couple guys and say they're the heart of the team.
Yeah.
It's unlike the football team where it's
that tells you a lot, right?
Yeah. There's a couple guys you can look at and go, that guy can be the heart each night. Yeah. The football team, I don't know if you could do that.
Bruner's out, by the way. I just had an Auburn fan use his Obama phone and text me that he Bruner's out.
So he's like out for how long?
He's not going to play against Georgia. That's not a chance he plays against Georgia next week.
That is big. That is big.
You know that you can already hear the Barners crying right now. Had he played,
Had he played.
Real quick,
what if we come back in here next Sunday and we've gone 2-0?
2-0? Yeah.
Georgia will be going bananas.
Well, I saw James said if they beat Tennessee, they'd be close to top 10. If they win both games, they got to be in the top 10.
I don't know.
Look, some people question how maybe the SEC isn't as good as they thought we.
Right. Yeah, that's where the conversation will go.
Yeah.
Real quick, we'll touch on the Falcons very fast because I want to get Bill's input on the Braves. Honestly, I couldn't really. He's much more not knowledgeable, but he's our Braves insider. So Falcons finally decide to fire their defense coordinator Jimmy Lake, which. In the NFL, it makes sense to fire him the day after because what the hell else is he going to do, right? There's nothing else.
There's no recruiting. There's none of that. Yeah,
they fire him and also the defensive line coach Jay Rogers. It's official now. They're drafting 15th overall, guys.
And Paul, can I step in Walter football? They have the Atlanta Falcons taking Mykel Williams. I know it's not going to happen, but that's where they currently in the mock draft they have.
I'd rather it be. To be honest with you, I don't want that to happen. I'll take Jalen Walker.
Yeah,
and I saw Jalen Walker in one mock. I saw Andy, and then I saw James Pierce.
I'll take either one.
Okay.
Another one. I would take either one of those over.
What about the kid from Penn State? Isn't that one?
Abdul Carter.
Yes, Abdul
take him
Carter.
too.
Yeah, I think he'll be higher. I would think he'd be top 8. Something like that.
But yeah, I'm not sold on Mykel Williams.
No, me neither.
And somebody else can have him. But that would be the Falcons thing. They finally take a dog.
Get the wrong one.
It's Mykel Williams, and they come in. They're like, look, this kid needs a couple years of polishing. It's like, no, we don't. We need a kid that can play right now.
Yep.
We Tack McKinley Part 2.
Oh.
Yeah. Biggest needs in free agency and draft. Real quick here, Bill, so we can go to the Braves.
Well, they've obviously got to rebuild the defense, and I think they need to let a couple of those defensive players go. I mean, it will be interesting to see who they bring in as a coordinator. I mean, you've got Dennis Allen, who's linked to both Raw and Fontenot. You've got Robert Saleh. You've got a lot of former head coaches that are defensive coaches that I think could be interesting fits there that I wouldn't mind having to put a little pressure on Raw. I think that may depend on it, but I'd let all those defensive players go. I think Grady's done. D'Orlando Ledbetter said on our show the other day that he's probably a rotational player now. He's out. He's gone. Yeah. I think you have a core group of draft picks that you want to see more of. Obviously, you don't have any choice with Orhoro or the kid from Notre Dame or the kid from UC. Who was that? Other
Washington,
kid, Brandon Dorcas. Yeah, Dorcas. Yes. So you want to see them, you want to see what they can do, but I think Richie Grant needs to go. I mean, I think you need to have a real big turnover, and you got to analyze the offensive line, because if they're now listen to this. This is how, I don't know if you heard this, Eddie, but Orlando Ledbetter said that when I asked him on Friday, do the Falcons need to re-examine the offensive line mainly because they're going to a lefty quarterback?
Yeah.
And Orlando Ledbetter said the Falcons have told him that's overrated and is not as important as people may think it is, and
Really?
that's not a big deal that Caleb McGarry is going to protect the blind side of Michael Penix Jr., which shows you how retarded these people are.
Yeah, that's dumb.
That's ridiculous. And it just, again, we know everything, and you people down there in planet Earth don't know shit. And it gets old after a while.
Yeah, it does. Before we move on, Paul, I gotta interject this because Bill will like this. I have said for years, Bill, I think agrees with me. The problem with this football team is Arthur Blank. Okay, his ownership the first decade was great, brought us places we'd never been. Since 28-3, his ownership has been crap. Okay, absolute crap, and he has his fingers in everything. And I hear this all the time. Well, he brought this wonderful stadium to Atlanta, and if you go down there, he treats the fans well because hot dogs are $4, beers are $5. Look what this man has done. He's done so much for the community, and he's saving everybody money. It's a shell game. Do you know what it cost my company to keep their 4 tickets when Blank built that stadium? Just to keep the tickets, $20,000, $5,000 a piece, just for the rights to buy the tickets, and it doesn't get you anything else. United's out, any concert that comes out. Okay, so I did the math real quick. 2,500 average maybe on a PSL. Okay, that's probably low. Times 70,000 in the stadium. $175 million at a minimum this gentleman collected, and he's given us $4 hot dogs. It's a shell game. He runs the stadium and the team like a shell game, and he's doing a crap job, and I hate it as a fan.
And he thinking that he can run a professional sports team like he ran Home Depot is unbelievable. You can't do that. You know, that's not logical. I retweeted a thing today where someone said that Teddy Bruschi went on ESPN this morning and talked about the Patriots who had been in that collaborative bullcrap for the last couple of years, and that didn't work. That's what led him down the road to hire Mayo, and that Vrabel was not going to be that. And I'll piggyback on what you said about Blank in saying that until the collaborative approach ends, it's not going to change. And that's why I wanted Bill Belichick, not just because it was Bill Belichick. I know people say, oh, well, you're always on the Bill Belichick would have not put up with that collaborative crap. And it would have been his way or the highway, which is what those people were afraid of. Everybody was like, wow. Well, so why did Arthur Blank's people not want Bill Belichick? Well, they would have been fired.
They'd have been out the door.
And the collaborative approach would have been out the door. So sure, they didn't want that. But for Raheem Morris on Monday to mention Terry Fontenot and Greg Beatles. Greg Beatles is the president of the team and has nothing to do with the football side. He's helped build the stadium, and he's as worthless as Rich McKay. And for Rich McKay to still be in that media guide after Arthur Blank said he was out of the football operations, regardless of his title, is ridiculous. That franchise is a joke. It will always will be. The head coach is a lame duck. The GM is a lame duck. And it's a shame because I think they found him a damn quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. But, you know, someone said, well, isn't McGarry a pretty good tackle for the run game? But he's not.
He's not a blindside.
And I think they also hit on Drake London. Drake London looks like a really good wide receiver. Bijan Robinson, and they want credit for that. Hey, guys, it's a first-round pick. You don't get credit for that. They're supposed to be impact players, guys.
But the Athletic had an article, too, today on Penny Sewell being the heart and soul of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And when Terry Fontenot came in as the general manager of this team, first of all, he and Arthur Smith should have had the balls to tell Matt Ryan, you're done. You're gone. Thank you. God bless you. You're done. You're toward the end of your career. But even if not, Terry Fontenot should have had the intelligence to know that in the first couple of years of his tenure as GM, he was going to have to change quarterbacks. And if so, that meant that he should have taken an offensive lineman to be the centerpiece of that team to protect the new quarterback, no matter if it was Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder or Michael Penix. And instead, he took a tight end from Florida who was flopped completely. who were stuck with it for another year. So, again, these guys, they're lame ducks. And here's the bad thing, because the dumb contract they gave to Kirk Cousins,
yeah,
they're not going to go out and get better this offseason. We're not going to go into August and think, oh, God, let me tell you that NFC South, you better be careful about the Falcons. They can't, because they're paying $90 million for 14 games to Kirk Cousins, which I was in favor of. The problem was of how you handled it with the draft pick, of how you screwed it up with Penix. That was unprofessional.
Get him some help or don't sign him, plain and simple.
And now I think I saw where the Patriots have 140 million in cap space, and the Falcons have 5. Falcons have 5 million.
Oh,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's even more why they're a lame duck. Why if Fondo doesn't improve this team, and they're not a winning team after 17 games next year, that's going to be 5 seasons of Fontenot having a losing season. And the bad thing is, we probably should be scared that the dumbass owner might keep him like he did Dimitrov too long. Dimitrov had a great run in Atlanta, probably the best GM they had, but he was kept too long because he kissed the butt of the owner. And that's probably exactly what Terry Fontenot's doing, not to mention the fact that he came from the Saints is probably a mole in the first place.
Well, I wanted to keep the Falcons segment short, but I guess.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, it's still fresh on the brain, Paul. So
it is. It is.
No, they just piss you off more than any franchise.
Well, I mean, it's 8:30. We should be kicking off right now in Blank's blessed dome and eating $4 hot dogs and watching our team at home in a playoff game. Nope, not happening.
The Atlanta Braves, though, well, they haven't made any deals. Yeah, I was going to say that I will say though that they are much more well run and much more competent GM. But few small deals, nothing big right now, guys. I mean, there's still some names out there. There's still some chances. I saw James Carraway say get like Santander on a 1-year AA deal. Those patented Alex Anthopoulos deals. Bill, I've been waiting for the first shoe to drop on this free agency or a trade or something for the Braves. I haven't seen it. Like they signed Garrett Cooper to a minor league deal. Woohoo, whoopee, hey, go ahead and get the streamers out for the parade next year. Go ahead and pre-order them. Where I thought for sure we'd be looking at a different shortstop right now, some type of corner outfielder. I saw they signed
starting pitcher. I mean,
they signed Jared Kalinick back again for $2.5 million. That's a AA move right there. But I like Jared. Don't get me wrong, but where
we have 3 starting pitchers, Bill. 3 starting. I mean, I know Spencer Strider will be back eventually, but right now we have 3. What do they do outside of Chris Sale?
We're not ending at 8:30. I don't need to run through this, do we? Or do we have to?
No, we'll go
over a little bit.
Yeah, we can go over. Yeah,
we don't have like Brent Rollins or some smart ass like that coming in after.
I didn't see anything. No, I didn't see. I think we've got the show to ourselves tonight. We got the challenge to ourselves.
Okay, I just didn't want to have to go quick. Well, let's talk about the rotation first. Here's what they're thinking is the rotation. You've got Chris Sale, you've got Reynaldo Lopez, you've got Spencer Schwellenbach. Then you have the possibility of Spencer Strider coming back probably in late April or early May.
Yeah.
So who are those 2 spots? I think Ian Anderson is the favorite for one of those spots because he's out of options, number 1.
Right.
And they are hoping that the second year back from the Tommy John, he'll be stronger. He wasn't pitching well late last year, and that's why he wasn't brought up when they were struggling with the rotation spots. I think A.J. Smith-Shawver, it's time for him to get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they mishandled A.J. Smith-Shawver, and I think that was a criticism I have of Alex. I love Alex, but I think that's a legit criticism. A.J. Smith-Shawver, if he's that good of a prospect, which some people believe he still has the number 1 status in that role, should be the 5th starter. And if not, you do have Bryce Elder, which I really don't want Bryce Elder to be in the rotation.
Don't say Paul's going to cry if you make fun of Bryce Elder. Yeah,
your boy. I remember that. Your boy, because you were the only one in the fan base who liked him. And then so I think that's the plan right now. Now, we do need to remember it's January 12th.
It
We're
is.
starting to see a little bit more activity, but there are still 150 free agents out there. I think they need more help in the bullpen. I think the bullpen is really shaky right now. If now, and with that rotation, can Chris Sale do it again? Can Reynaldo stay healthy? Can Schwellenbach do it for his first year? We don't know. The bullpen to me is more troublesome because you've got Raisel Iglesias, who's great, and then you've got a hole because you've got AJ Minter gone, Joe Jimenez hurt. You've got then Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, who may be stretched out as a starting pitcher, by the way, and then Pierce Johnson. Well, Pierce Johnson's not an eighth inning guy. He's barely a seventh inning guy. He's more sixth or seventh inning guy. They need a relief pitcher badly. They
Tanner Scott
desperately. Well, Tanner wants 4 years and $80 million, and I don't think they want to do that. Now, I would consider that if I were them because Iglesias is a free agent after next year.
Yeah.
So you could say, well, we're going to allow Tanner to replace Iglesias, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I think the years worry him more than anything. Elder didn't feel admirably at all. He was an all-star, and they should have traded him right after that. Yeah. Bryce Elder is not a good major league pitcher for a team that wants to win a championship. He is not, Paul. He's not. He's not Greg Maddux.
But we're going to have Ian Anderson come in and start.
I think Ian Anderson can throw harder than Bryce Elder. I think I can throw harder.
Greg Maddux didn't throw too hard.
Oh, good.
Compare Bryce Elder to Greg Maddux.
He's not Greg Maddux.
Here we go, Paul.
But I think the bullpen is more of a question mark for me because you've got holes there. And look, they're going to say that about Grant Holmes, about the rotation too. I don't really like that. I think I'd rather have Bryce Elder than Grant Holmes. I'd rather have Grant Holmes as a long guy in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Maybe he can be okay. That's fine. I think Daysbel Hernandez has a chance to be in the rotation. I like him. I think he's got a good – in the bullpen, excuse me. They need it. I think they're – Paul, I think they're trying to reset their luxury tax thing. I think they're trying to get it back to where they're only taxed 20% next year in 2026, which will happen if they go back to below that level, that apron this year. And so I think they got $25 million to play with. Now, again, I would rather them, and could they give Jack Flaherty 1 year, 17, 18, 20 million? Yes. Could they do it with Tanner Scott? Possibly, but I think that would limit their flexibility for the entire year. They hope, and I know y'all probably don't agree with me or this premise, it's not me. They are very hopeful that the new hitting coach can help Sean Murphy, who
you have no other choice there, Bill.
No question. Now you get their best prospect coming up is Drake Baldwin.
I was going to ask you about that because I think they start the season with Trump as the backup. Is Baldwin, you think, has a chance to see some significant time?
I think at times during the year, I think that's – but as long as Trump wears number 47, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
But no,
still a lot of jerseys, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that Murphy – now, I'm of the opinion about Murphy, and I know I'm not going to be – this is not going to be a very popular thought. Could a new hitting coach help him? Yes. But I think, and I love Travis d'Arnaud, this is going to may sound like a d'Arnaud knock. I think d'Arnaud getting out of the way and only having a true backup like a Trump be his backup is going to make Murphy a little bit more mentally comfortable compared to feeling that, well, if I crap the bed here for a couple of days, that he may put Travis in for a week.
He's not looking over his shoulder thinking he's
right because it's been a shared position, right? And but I think now it's more of a normal situation where Sean Murphy can be the catcher. Like, who's the starting catcher? The last 2 years we said, well, they got a two-headed monster. Now we don't. Now we have Sean Murphy, who was a good player when Alex acquired him 2 years ago. Does have skills. They love throwing to him. But Tim Hires, y'all, look, Tim Hires has flown up to Wisconsin to spend time with Jared Kelenic. He has spent time with Sean Murphy. He's going to spend time with Michael Harris, I think, this week, I believe. So they really hope.
He spent time with me back in 6th grade.
There you go. And look where you are today.
Yeah, he was our head coach.
Was he?
Yeah.
Well, do you like him?
Yeah, I loved him. Yeah.
They love him. They are so happy with their hire, Paul, about who they've got. So I think that's the hope for Sean Murphy It's the hope that RC is not going to listen to anybody. So that doesn't matter. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But here's the thing. Arcia can be okay hitting 230 if everybody else is okay hitting the ball the way they're supposed to. In other words, it's last year it was like, well, hell, Murphy's hitting 230 and Olson's hitting 230 and Kelnick's hitting 230 and Arcia's hitting 230. So if some of that other stuff improves, it won't hurt so much to have Arcia be hitting 230 and be defensive only for shortstop. So that's some of their thinking of what's going on. They're, they hope that late April, early May, that Strider and Ronald can get back and that they'll stay healthier than they were last year.
So I want to ask, I think Bill may have answered this, but I want to pose it this way. So Bill, silly to say, the Braves have one move left. I know that's stupid.
Yeah, but
starting pitching, relief pitching, or an outfielder that can hit.
Bullpen.
Yeah,
bullpen.
Okay.
I don't like the bullpen right now at all.
I know. I kind of do that too. I'm with you. I'm kind of.
I don't like it.
Here's my thing. How many starters started games last year for the Braves? It was like 14.
Too many.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to go out and get not saying like a Charlie Morton, but somebody that can eat innings for you consistently and just maybe throw 4.1 ERA, something like that. And just can
you assume Strider's coming back, but you just don't know, right?
Well,
you don't know how he's going to.
Kind of crapped on Charlie Morton, but he was going to the hill. I mean, he was there. He was throwing
every fifth day. He was out there, and you had to put up. Problem with Charlie though is your team has to put up runs to win the game. He's not going to. He's going to give up 4 or 5.
He's giving up 4 or 5 a game. He is, but if he's available, that's something we don't.
And there's no question. You got 339.2 innings you've got to replace between Charlie Morton and Max Fried. That's an extraordinary amount of innings. And yes, it is rolling the dice saying, well, Ian Anderson and Bryce Elder and AJ Smith-Shawver and a hurt coming back Spencer Strider can take up those innings. But, I think they can make do with the rotation, see what happens when Strider gets back. And then if they have to go get someone in season, that's okay. I think just that bullpen, though, guys, really scares me right now. It's just because, again, I mean, and they have talked. Dylan Lee may be stretched out in spring training to possibly be a starting pitcher.
And so your assumption there is that the bats can't be as bad as they were last year, especially with the new hitting coach and all that. That was just a year you just like throw away, right?
I think you have to be concerned about it, but I think the new hitting coach voice will matter, and I think the circumstances may matter a little bit. Let's see if in a strict platoon in left field, for example, could Brian De La Cruz and Kelnick be okay? There's no doubt until they get Strider and Ronald back, it's not going to be a complete team like we hope it will be. But the bullpen. I mean, I'm waiting for a bullpen addition because I just think that is the, and again, there are options there. Like I said, with Grant Holmes and Daysbell, and there's some quad A guys that may get a shot in spring training and may become good, may be okay, may be possibilities for this team that they brought in that are on those kind of quad A deals. But as far as what we know right now, January 12th, the bullpen scares me more than anything and again, it's like, if you're going to stretch out Dylan Lee and I don't think Dylan Lee's going to make it as a starting pitcher, but let's say he did, what the hell are you going to be in that bullpen? You're going to have one lefty with Aaron Bummer, who makes everybody want to drink alcohol when he comes in the game in the 6th inning, much less the 8th inning. Yeah. And if AJ doesn't come back, what are you going to do? You got all these left-handed hitters in your division, Harper and now Soto, that you've got to deal with, and you are thinning out your left-handed relief corps compared to last year when you had Bummer, Minter, and Lee. So you got to watch out for that. That's a real concern for me right now.
Bill and AJ Minter
was a beast. Let's be honest. Joe Jimenez, as an 8th inning guy, he was really good.
Yeah, he was.
Is AJ Minter, is he completely gone? Is there no door for that to come back?
I think he's just going to get more money somewhere else, Boston or Texas. May not. And look, again, it is January 12th. There are extraordinary number of players out there. Could something mix and correctly for him tomorrow, Alex and AJ come back, or I love Tanner Scott. I don't think they're going to do Tanner Scott for 4 years and $20 million a year. No, I just don't think they're going to do that. But could Tanner Scott come here for 2 years and 30? Well, I think he'd be interested in that. I don't know if I buy the Flaherty stuff for a couple of reasons. But I mean, there are pitchers out. I mean, and this name is not going to be sexy, but there's a kid out there named Jacob Junis who's played for Milwaukee and Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kind of a swing guy, but I'd even take a chance on some of those guys at a lower price. I mean, I'm telling you, I would go out right now and spend $12 million on 3 relief pitchers and give them $4 million each, because that's how worried I am about the bullpen.
Well, we didn't make it to the Hawks. It's unfortunate.
That's a damn shame, Paul Maharry, because they rock.
Yeah, that's Eddie's favorite thing to watch during the week, and I'm sorry we couldn't get there for you, Eddie.
Only, not favorite.
But no, guys, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate Bill joining us for an hour 10. We went 10 minutes over here. I got to pay a lot of extra fees on that.
I don't know if I've ever gone
time and a half.
Yeah. No, but really, really and truly, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate Bill Shanks joining us. And as always, hit that like button before you head out. We've got one last show before we take a little bit of a break. Next weekend will be our last show. Bill, you can come back if you want. I don't know.
Y'all are taking time off?
Yeah, we're going to take a little time off.
Where y'all going? What do you losers have to do?
This is very taxing, and I need a break from it. So, I can't wait for the vacation. Especially not to see Paul's face is good enough for me.
I'm begging them not to do it, but it's those guys. So
wow, I do 15 hours a week. Good grief.
Well, watch out now. Don't work too hard over there, Bill. No, guys, we appreciate you so much for tuning in for the Peach State Power. That's Bill Shanks, Andy Stowe, Eddie from Acworth. I'm Paul Maharry. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.